Okay, so my name's Theodore Manchego. I'm talking about how I would close the achievement gap within schooling. So, definition of the achievement gap is actually the disparity of achievement between various student groups. Um, what I'd kind of known going into this was that I'd kind of known that wealth and achievement was sort of a Caucasian luxury, but from the reading I noticed that it doesn't necessarily narrow down to that, but the females, they kind of get a little bit of a benefit of the doubt as well. In my own community, I've seen some kids that, if they didn't grow up with a lot of the money and a lot of the things that um, kind of go along with that, then they'd either end up dropping out or having to work so much that they could help their family, and that would end up affecting their schooling and possibly being able to go to college and stuff like that. And I've seen them not able to go to college or not being able to finish college. Um, One of the main causes of the achievement gap, what I was reading from Ford, is that there tends to be a cultural bias in tests, and especially when it comes to like IQ tests. Um, there's that sort of bias, and then what Sosa was talking about was the gender bias that's also there. So those are definitely two biases. Because culturally, a kid can struggle with a question just because he doesn't quite understand English quite as much or as well, and all the little intricacies of our language, and that could throw him off, and then the kid's not going to seem as smart when in reality he's actually a brainiac, and we just didn't really give him a fair shake per se. So one of the big things is the standardized testing. So I don't. One of my proposed solutions when closing the achievement gap is I'd like to. I don't like standardized tests. There's a mindset where if students don't pass them, then the students and teachers are failures, but I don't feel like that's necessarily a true thing. Um, a lot of the problems with the standardized tests is they're all the same, and they're assuming that all the kids are from the same cultures, they're all from the same areas, they're all, same, and that's not necessarily true. So that's definitely a bias, and that takes away from test takers, and it hinders being able to answer the questions. Um, I would need the support of the community in order to do something like that. Some of the obstacles I face is, people from state and local governments, they really enjoy the idea of standardized testing. They've been doing the Ames tests and those sort of tests out here in Arizona for a long time, so they might be thinking, well, if it's not broke, why fix it? Um, I don't really like that. So, what I'm hoping to sort of achieve with this is I'm hoping to achieve a learning environment more like the executive educational system that we read about. Um, One that tries to teach students to work through the realities, so that quote unquote a conceptual understanding on learning takes place. Um, I prefer that, and I found this important in my community because it's important because the middle class is kind of dissipating, and I've always been taught, and I've always been a proponent of, if you have a strong middle class, then you can progress as a community and a country, and that'll help with our education, and those things kind of just go hand in hand. So yeah. Anyways, thank you.